Hi, my name is Peter, and welcome back to Brentwood Stories. For the second part of our Entenmann's Bakery podcast, me and Peter are joined by Bruce and Horace, two longtime employees. Bruce and Horace share stories and answer our questions about life and working at Entenmann's Bakery. Peter learns that the bakery is more like Willy Wonka than he imagined, and I learned how you clean a giant oven.
You going to sit and confess your sins?
I don't know whether there's some sins maybe.
I don't know.
Me and Peter are joined here by
Bruce Bader.
And could you say what your part of Entenmann's was?
Distribution logistics.
And
Horse cheese.
And what did you do over at Entenmann's?
I started in production, but not very long. And then I went to the Air Force. And when I came back, I got into maintenance after a couple of years. And I spent most of my career in maintenance.
How long did you work over at Entenmann's?
Started in 65, took a 4-year sabbatical to go in the Air Force, and then I retired in 03.
So how many years is that?
Well, if you count the 4 years, it would be 38 because they counted the 4 years. That was another nice thing about when you came back.
Yep.
Your seniority, you got to keep your seniority for the years you went into service.
But there was also a thing for a while, if you left the company, you couldn't come back. But that was corporate.
Yeah.
You know.
So that was another nice thing that they did.
Back then, yeah.
There weren't, like if you went to jury duty, you got your full pay. A lot of companies didn't do that. Entenmann's would give you your full pay while you were on jury duty, so you didn't lose any money.
And schooling. They paid for to get my degree. You didn't even have to you could get an A, B, or C. Now some companies don't pay you unless you get an A.
Oh.
Right? A, B, or C paid for all my books.
Wow, that's a great deal.
Everything. Yeah, and they didn't want the books. They don't want the books back. I'm telling you, it's different when it's, family and a family-owned operation and, wasn't quite corporate yet.
How did you find out about the job?
Oh, I'm from this area.
Oh,
I graduated high school in Brentwood. Okay, so I moved in the area in 57. And number one, you knew this company. You knew the company was open for business and operating because, like you mentioned, the smell
Oh, right.
was all over the whole area. And you drove by, you just pick it up. It was, but also it was the place you wanted to be. It was the biggest employer probably around.
In Islip, it was one of the biggest.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, they ran 24 hours, 6 days a week. I mean, it's a lot of people plus, distribution and everything. The tractor trailers was not part of them. Had their name on it.
Yeah, they were.
But they didn't own the tractor trailers.
And they weren't Teamsters, those drivers.
Right. That was down the street at another operation called Rent Right, who did the long distance hauling for us. But anyway, and so you wanted to get in here. If you got in here, you had it made, And then I saw an opening. I saw it in the paper. Back then, with no computers, remember, you had to go through the want ads in the paper. And there it was. And I got hired in production control, which was scheduling the bakery. So when these people talked about all the stuff about why wasn't this made or why this or whatever, I scheduled it. Each day had what they called a menu. We called it the menu, and sales kind of put the menu together. And then I'd get the menu. And my job was to use the available manpower that we had for each respective oven and work that in there so we had enough people to make make the items that were on that menu. All right? And then, of course, some cases you had to be imaginative and maybe you had instead of an 8-hour day, it was only going to be a 5-hour day for the crew. But you don't send the people home. No, you put them on another line.
Oh, okay.
So you got to be imaginative, and that's when, and things like that. And then
that sounds very complicated.
Yeah, but if anything goes wrong, then they're looking at, where's Bruce?
Oh yeah, and
so
then
was Bruce's guy you were getting angry at.
And I guess
and then I had to go to a copy machine, which back in those days was a pretty good copy machine. It actually stapled it together. We're talking about not 8x10 paper; it's the long paper. and I'd make like 100 copies,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I'd bring them to respective departments, and this way they knew what they had to make,
Yeah.
and it was very repetitive. In other words, what we're making this week, we're making next week, and then what we're making next week, we're making. But on the 4-day weeks, that's when you would have like we would call it build-up week, the week before, because if you had a 4-day week, you still had to make the same amount of product, so you would make it as much as you can the week before. And the company, the bakery, in all the years I was there, well, I only did production scheduling for 2 years. The most I ever scheduled was, now this is daily. I'm sorry, weekly.
Okay.
Weekly was over 4 million sellable units. A sellable unit is a box. That's a sellable unit. But we only hit 4 million a couple times. But basically it would be like on a build-up week for a holiday.
Oh, yeah.
Like 3.7, 3.8. And I had to schedule that much. But the first day of the week might be like 700 and something thousand. And then Tuesdays was always the low week, the low day. And then it would drop down to 400,000. And Wednesday it starts to build.
I think at the peak, we had somewhere in the neighborhood of 1,800 people.
Did we?
Between
Is that counting?
production and Teamsters
Oh.
and everybody, management.
Yeah, I think in the building was
personnel.
like maybe only 1,000, a production 1,000, but yeah, it's a lot of,
It
there's
just
a lot of
never
people.
stopped expanding right up until when they shut it down.
But that's how the production skew went. It was high on Monday, and then it started to go down, and then it starts to go back up. And the reason it goes back up is because you got to make enough product to carry you through the weekend
Okay.
and into next week. And this week is the same as next week, except when there's holidays. Christmas cupcakes.
I was going to say, aren't there certain products that were really big during the holidays?
Yeah, like, they make Christmas
This time of the year,
cupcakes.
the pie line.
Oh, yeah.
And the pie, right.
24/7.
You made
They wouldn't,
sweet potato pie.
except for Saturday. but
Sweet potato pie is the only time we made it was during Thanksgiving in the whole
pumpkin
entire
pie
year.
and custard pie and, Christmas between New Year's and.
Right. They
You know
just
what
seem
always
to.
struck me? When you go on vacation and you go away for a week, the first day you come back to work, you get out of your car and there's that smell.
Yeah.
But by the next day, you
You get used to it.
don't know that smell
Yeah,
anymore.
you get used
until you
to
get
it.
away from it.
Yeah.
Was it nice smelling it again?
Oh God, it's like
It's like being in somebody's
Kid in a
kitchen that's
candy
cooking
store.
turkey or whatever, or cooking, baking a
able
cake.
to,
But it's through the whole entire atmosphere.
That must be a rare experience, really liking the smell of a place that you,
You would
were.
smell it.
Yeah, well-
You would smell it within maybe a quarter of a mile, as you're on Fifth Avenue.
But by the next day, if you're in there all day long,
Yeah.
now
Yeah.
when you go home and you're outside, you don't
Yeah.
notice it the next day.
That's funny because that's the most memorable part for so many of these people is that it's
Yeah.
You're right.
it's the smell, but for
if
you it's just so mundane.
On a
You're right.
repetitive basis, that novelty wears off after a couple of days or 2
Yeah.
days. Then you
Yeah.
don't notice it until you go away again, and
Yep. Yeah, you're right. I guess it's your senses or whatever, But I mean, I've been smelling that stuff. Like I said, I'm from this area, so you know how many times I passed there.
Oh, and Horace,
I was just in there like 3 weeks ago.
How'd you get in there?
Well, because
I'd love to get in there.
Huh?
I'd love to go in there.
One of the
I would love to go.
One of the supervisors of the Thomas's drivers, they have a settlement room in there in where shipping used to be. A section of it, they made a settlement room for the Thomas's drivers.
Yeah, shipping over
So
where.
Jerry's, he used to be a route driver, and he became a supervisor. He was on my bowling team for years, so
You could just
I
walk.
went in and visited him.
Oh,
So I just
hell.
knocked on the door. He saw me, he let me in, because I needed to see him about something. And
I'd love to go in there. I bet you the floor is the same with those tiles. Bakery. That's like bakery. A standard bakery floor.
That was like,
Square tiles, brown tiles.
oh,
The whole entire. And because it's like that's how it has to.
I can remember on a
right?
Saturday morning we had rain one time, like 15 minutes rain that I'd never seen him, and a couple of areas in the bakery that floor
Flooded?
exploded,
Oh.
just burst right up, in the chocolate room. And
Really?
somewhere else, the floor just.
Oh.
We've never seen that much rain come down where the groundwater just comes right up. And
Wow.
I feel sorry for you guys.
You had a chocolate room.
They made their own chocolate.
Yeah.
That does sound like Willy Wonka. There's a chocolate room.
Yeah.
Right, the chocolate factory, they made their own chocolate chips, they made their own chocolate powder, cocoa powder, they
Sure.
made everything from scratch.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes I had to put that on the menu, on the schedule. A lot of time to do the streusel, a bit of crumb cakes and stuff, and you run X amount of hours, bake it, and stick it into whatever, big bins, plastic big bins or something, whatever.
What did the chocolate room look like?
It was amazing, it was, because it was like clippity-clop, everything, all the machinery is going, and you see this powder going up this conveyor and into this bin, and these giant arms are mixing, and then there's butter and everything else, and it's all being mixed, and then it comes out and it goes down the conveyor, and all of a sudden these dots are being put on the conveyor to make chocolate chips, and they go into these 800-pound troughs that fill up with chocolate chips. And
That's amazing.
It is.
but it was,
It's all the computer.
important because they could maintain the quality, from point A to point B.
How big was the room? Is it like the size of this room?
Huge. No, maybe 20 times the size
Whoa,
of this room.
that's a chocolate room.
The ovens were probably,
100-foot long.
I was just going to say, 100 feet.
Yeah.
And the cookie oven went down as far as I can remember and made the curve.
No, it was straight.
Didn't it make a curve?
No, the curve was after they came out of the oven.
Down by oven 4, the end of oven 4.
Then they would go into the cooler,
Yeah,
the cooling tunnel,
yeah.
and but the oven itself was straight. Yeah,
Yeah, but the whole line made that curve,
yeah,
right?
it made the curve and went out to packing and shipping. Because
Yeah.
it took a long time to cool
Yeah.
the cookies down, and then
Yep.
the scales and
But I'd say you're right. I'd say like
they were about
Loaf oven,
between
square
100
oven.
Some of them were a little longer, some a little shorter.
I'd say so.
But they all somewhere between
Pie
100 and
oven.
120 feet long.
Yeah, and wide.
Windows all
And
along the
wide.
side where you could see, so they could.
If you're making 100 of those loaves a minute, like I mentioned, I think it's more than 10 wide.
Yeah.
10, and then I don't know, 20 wide. The width of an oven might be from these two tables.
I'm guessing 20.
Say these
yeah,
two tables.
15 to 20 feet somewhere in that.
So these two
neighborhood, yeah.
tables would be the width times 100, and the stuff is just,
That's huge.
it comes and it's in pans,
Yeah.
like just like you would bake in
And
your
the
house.
guys at the oven guys
And-
that had to unload that. Most of it was all done, by machinery. But if there was a breakdown at the unloading end, something happened, then all of a sudden they'd have to separate the conveyors and bring racks in so these guys could keep racking, because you don't stop
I
that
tell you,
thing.
it's I Love
It's like
Lucy.
a volcano. You don't stop the lava when it's coming out. You just got to find a place to put it.
Yeah.
They had to put all the cakes and everything
Wow.
in racks
Yeah.
until they could figure out the problem, because you're not going to stop that oven. The donut fryer is the same thing. If something went wrong, they've got to empty this thing. They can't just stop
that's
because
hot-
that'll all explode.
hot oil or
go
whatever.
How
on
often would
fire.
that happen?
Once in a while it would happen. So you had to,
Yeah.
they had to be prepared to. Just like that Lucy episode.
People would faint doing it, you said, right?
Yeah, I mean, really. I mean, it's crazy. Like he said, that
In the
all
beginning,
hands
you
on
get caught
deck.
up in it, and your natural instinct is you don't want to see something fall on the floor. You want to try
Yeah.
to. And if it goes faster and faster, and then if you lose your rhythm, all of a sudden you're totally.
Yeah.
Then you're like Lucy and Ethel.
It was kind of, when you think about it, I don't know how modern bakeries are, but our stuff was. I came in '80, and so you came when
Well,
you beat me out by a while. It's probably the same machinery
65.
then, right?
No, they didn't have any of the machinery then.
Not those ovens.
All they had was conveyors, and they didn't have those ovens. They had the ovens that had like 8 shelves, and they were like a Ferris wheel.
Oh, so it came
They
like
were
in the
the
'70s.
universal
Must have
ovens,
came in the
little ones,
'70s
yeah.
because they were there when I got there.
Right.
Now, with
And that's how it was
I
when
think
I.
around 67 or 68
All right,
might
there
have
you
been
go.
the first long oven.
Yeah, there you go.
my curiosity is piqued here with the giant ovens that eventually did come in there. What was cleaning day like?
Well,
Saturdays. It was a
right.
nightmare.
Did you walk in there
We'd
with
shop.
a hose and
We shop. No, like I mentioned with the hoses and everything, but I don't know if there had to be any, did you guys have to do, manual? Because like anything burnt and stuff and,
Well, they also had, when the oven is just one giant conveyor of plates, right? And then as it's emptying the cake and it's going around underneath, there's a huge brush there that's going in the opposite direction to kind of keep that, and underneath there is where, they got to empty those pans to collect all the debris. But yeah, they had a huge sanitation force on Saturdays that would just.
Yeah, that was right because production started Sunday about 4:00.
Yeah.
Am I right? Somewhere
Yeah.
around then. That's when production for the week. That's when it kicks in. So, like he said,
Maintenance,
and the place was flooded
sanitation had to
because they just
coordinate because they would any big maintenance jobs would be saved for the weekend for Saturday when you had access to the machinery.
And that was probably
you had to. There was a lot of times when you were tearing apart a machine, and they're scheduled to wash this thing.
Yep.
Or they're already in the process of washing it now. We were supposed to service this thing and pull it all apart and everything, but now the next shift will have to do it because we can't do it while it's being.
Yep.
Oh, right.
Yeah. And that was.
They tried to maintain, the ultimate standards to make sure everything was clean.
We would get inspected every so often,
and
wouldn't
I
we?
think they got their share of compliments that.
Were those machines very difficult to maintain for you, or?
I didn't stay that long with them because it got more and more sophisticated. When they started using PCs and whatnot, then I was getting too old for that. I shifted to another part of maintenance because that you had to really be on the ball. That stuff was at on the cutting edge. The technology.
Would both of you see the Entenmann family every day, or with it?
No.
Just Robert and William.
Robert and William.
When it went, Martha never was. I never.
Well,
she was used to work the cash window.
She worked the cash
paid
window.
for she paid these guys.
Yeah.
These guys.
Oh, okay.
This is back
You
in
go there
paper
and cash
checks.
your check, right?
Back before you would have your payroll sent to
And
the
she
bank.
knew all the drivers by name.
Wow.
She knew everybody.
Every one of them.
How many drivers were there?
Yep.
I don't know. 300, 400?
Oh, we had. Well, in shipping, we had. In shipping, we had about 100 and something routes. So each truck is a route, okay? And then those trucks would be backed in. And as this product is being made and works its way to the shipping department, there's like, we used to have maybe...
They had a KBK system, a unirail along the ceiling.
Yeah.
And
oh, God, that brings
each
back memories.
production
KBK.
line, at the end of the packing, they would pack the cake would come down and they would put it on tables. And then the table had wheels on it, and they would hook it as this KBK system came by. They would just hook the table on, and then it would just drive it all through shipping.
That's when they...
So that in the back,
That's towards the end.
the people that took the cake from the tables and put it in the racks for the route drivers, the cakes would just keep continuously going.
But also on those rolling racks that it was on.
Yeah.
If we had about 40, maybe a little bit more trailers of product, which went to various depots.
Yeah.
The closest one I would think would be Mineola. We had one in Woodside. We had one in Pennsylvania, Exton. You had, Maryland, whatever. And these trailers would go down, and we loaded trucks with hand jacks, electric hand jacks, and people, had their orders, by their respective door with the trailer, and then they would stab a couple racks at a time, and scoot them on in there, based on
They're still doing that.
what the quantity.
Now they're doing it in reverse, though,
Yeah.
because the cakes are coming in from Carlisle by tractor trailer. And there are still people in shipping
Was this in Hazleton?
who take the racks of cake out of the tractor trailers and put them in the by the doors where the route driver, because they still have route drivers.
Well, yeah, we had to do that shipping. Shipping got their amount that they needed for Bayshore. Because the Bayshore area was done right from the bakery. Okay, the tractor trailers did all the far out places, including up north into Canada. When we started going up into Canada and stuff like that, like I says, but there was 100 and something routes for Bayshore, out of Bayshore, which went all over the place, and that's how I mean, if a depot was let's see, loaves, a rack of loaves was I think 400 or 500 on a rack. I forget one. I don't forget how many levels was there. 5? Yeah, I think there was 5. And I think there would be 100. I don't know, or 80. I don't know, maybe 400.
They'd have a separate room where the guys would weld just to repair the racks. They were rack repair.
Oh yeah.
Guys would change the wheels, weld the shelves if they broke.
Wow.
That's maintenance. Yeah. But yeah, they would just. You're working, say, Exton, Pennsylvania, and Exton, Pennsylvania wants 800 all but a pound loaf. That's 2 racks. So you get your jack. The person working that trailer gets the 2 rack, and then you just drive it right in. Boom, pop it in there, and it's in, and then more. And then as it got filled, the trailer got filled, we put bars across to keep it so it don't fall out the door. While you're driving, safety, whatever, and then through paperwork in there and whatever, and it was all choreographed, Then we had a guy in the yard. He was our yard man, and he would take the empty he would take that trailer, put it up against the fence, and then when XYZ driver shows up to go to Exton, Pennsylvania, he just hooks it, and checks out with the guard out there. And sometimes we banded them for there was a lot of theft going on too, I mean, it'd go all the way to Pennsylvania. We're short cake. You weren't short cake when we did it. That's because they might have opened the door, and I think didn't take, But
interesting.
Stuff like that happened. It happened. You talk about.
So the driver
in fact, he was talking about how great the family was when I got there.
Yeah.
I was part of management. Do you know I was allowed to take as a manager 2 cakes a day for free? Every day. So when Thanksgiving comes and we're going I would ask my wife, find out what your mother and father want and they went, we want 2 apple pie, we want and they would string them for you. So I think I could get 5.
And you were allowed to sign free.
You just signed the paper. You walk out the front door. You walk out the front
Bruce?
door.
The people that worked for you, you could sign for them.
Right.
To have free cakes sometimes.
And so now, of course, who used to take cake like crazy? Gordon. I go, Gordon, you're going to get freaking so fat. Where are you going with this?
What do you got around?
Where are you doing with this cake? He's doing it all year round. I took it for the holidays, and if I'm going to visit somebody, I take a couple boxes of cake with me, But Gordon was like bulking up, I'm telling you. And I don't know what he was doing, But anyway, that's how generous they were.
I don't know if
I know in some years it went away.
Yeah.
Totally went away.
Well, what?
These guys didn't get that benefit, unfortunately.
Didn't get the free
has
cake.
its limits. When I started, they were, like I mentioned, if you finished the order, they would send you home and pay you, and that was minimum. That would happen once a week, sometimes twice a week, and you'd say as a kid, "What kind of a job?"
It's great.
And but the company didn't end that policy. They only lasted about 6 months.
Yeah.
That some of the older guys in the union, when they do that for you, if they paid you yesterday for 3 hours that you didn't work, and if the schedule, they needed 20 minutes to go over, to finish the product, they expected you to stay.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't think, as a kid, but some of the older guys, they come up with their card, they want quarter-hour overtime. You can't have it both ways.
Oh, right.
There went that.
No,
the next time
you're right.
we finished early,
You're right.
get mops, buckets, brooms, scrapers.
Oh, yeah.
Start washing everything
that's right.
down.
I
They
mean,
shot themselves in the
You
foot.
got
It wasn't going to last anyway.
You got
But
to leave early, but then when you had 15 minutes overtime, you
was,
wanted
one
to-
hand is supposed
and
to
then when
wash.
you guys unionized,
Well, we were union when I got there already.
no, but when it went union, Horst is whatever his classification is. Let's just say for argument's sake, it's $10 an hour, and then they need him in that area. He would get paid more money if the classification for that job.
Oh, yeah.
okay.
Remember, they would
Yeah.
do that for you.
Yeah.
You know, and people would check, make sure you did it, and then you
And
would
they
have.
were nice.
And we were doing time cards then. I mean, there's no computers. This is all time cards.
Right.
You know,
And like when you came back from the service,
so it was all manual.
Everybody, they would give you a promotion.
You know,
Like people that I knew, they would be helpers and they would go into the military.
Yeah.
And when they came back, they made them benchmen. They didn't have to do that.
no, it's nice.
And you kept your seniority. And it's like when I got back, I worked 18 months as a mixer, and then I went into maintenance. And it took a year. When you changed from one place to another, you'd give up your seniority for a year. When you got a new job. When I went into maintenance, so for a year I had no seniority. But after a year, then I was number 2 in maintenance for the rest of my life because of the 4 years in the Air Force.
Oh, wow.
They give you credit.
Yeah.
Yeah, they give you the credit.
So that meant that until I retired, I'd get first pick.
I remember when I got
of
there.
everybody.
Wow.
Always first picks of the holidays that
That's right. That's really nice.
You would have always had your job when you went into the service, even when it was union. But us management, if we quit,
Yeah, that's.
and you couldn't get relatives in.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
If you left,
Yeah.
there was no coming back,
Oh, okay.
and you weren't supposed to. They didn't want family.
Why wouldn't they want someone to come back if they quit? Why was that not a possibility?
That was just a company policy. It was a. I don't know if these guys are in the union. I'm management, so we're on our own. These guys, they might have been able to, maybe with the union. I think any job lets you come back if you're in the service, because that's just,
These people,
But
like when I came back and I was mixing, the management, the supervisors, they were privy to these recipes. That was their.
yeah.
Now, if you know these recipes and you leave,
Yeah.
if that cake suddenly shows up in another bakery,
Oh, right.
and they went through that.
But you
once
signed
with
the paper.
Yeah, but
We
they
signed
went
the
through that
paper.
when we opened up our own English muffin factory inside
Yeah.
there. They had suddenly, mysteriously, 2 guys that worked at Thomas's all those years
Yeah.
show up working at Entenmann's, and suddenly we have a recipe for the English muffins. And
Yeah.
so they got taken to court, and we had to shut down the whole, take the whole facility.
I remember when we
down.
we wanted to get into the English muffin business. I remember we wanted to get an English muffin, built a whole mezzanine.
I know.
Remember they put that long oven in?
Yeah, I was there.
But back then,
All because
Back
they
then-
hired 2 guys that.
Thomas's, eventually it turned out Thomas's was under the same family name, under the same corporate umbrella as Entenmann's, but at the time they weren't.
Right.
And Thomas's owned the English muffin business, it seemed, I mean,
Yeah.
right, on
And they took
TV,
Entenmann's to court.
commercials, and I remember when those used to come out of our oven and you couldn't even tell the difference.
No, theirs was nooks and crannies. Ours was fork split.
Whatever,
English
I mean,
muffins, but they were the same.
But you know what? That whole thing went right down the drain, because eventually I think we
Bruce,
lost.
They hired 2 guys that worked at Thomas's.
Is that what it was?
Yes, and and they swore, no, we didn't bring a recipe with us. We don't know. We never saw an English muffin.
That was the end of our English
But
muffin
they
business.
lost they had to take the whole thing.
They had to take the whole oven down, and then we got offices up in that area. They put
so
us
now
up there.
I just went there, and Thomas's has a, like I said, they have a settlement room in Fifth Avenue.
Yeah,
And even though they have a brand new state-of-the-art facility in Deer Park,
I was going to say by the
right near where they
by
had
the
the reunions,
outlets.
yeah, near Miller's Ale House.
But that's
over
on the
there.
Bimbos or whatever.
Well, so is
Whatever.
So is Bayshore.
Oh, you
It's
guys
all on
met
the
at
Bimbos.
that ale house right
Not
there?
Miller's Ale House. That's where we.
Right by the
last
outlets.
2 years we've been having the reunion over there
I
at the
gotta
end of
go,
October.
man. Got to get me in on that.
Yeah,
Yeah, because it's a shame.
it's what it is. Every year I go now. I've been out of there 16 and a half years, and so there's less and less people I know. We had like 80 people show up.
They might
Wow.
have to, God
And
forbid, something
I
happened.
didn't always know everybody's name because when I went into maintenance, I went everywhere in the plant because you had, half of it was maintaining machinery. Another half of your job was new construction.
Yeah.
They'd put up a new facility. You had to run electrical lines and, huge panels and everything. We had to do that too.
Oh, yeah.
So I never got in one place long enough where I knew anybody's name. But I knew everybody's, you wave, you say hello,
That was the-
everything, but
That dream makes sense.
Yeah. I think
it's unbelievable. And
yeah. So many people got married there.
yeah.
So many people, I mean, of all the of that place, because we all came in at least the group I was with, we were all in our 20s.
Yeah.
20s
I was 18.
and stuff. We were just
started.
growing up together, going to weddings together.
Many years later, people, before I retired,
Ugh.
I'd walk around, people say, how long you been, and I'd tell them how long. They couldn't believe it. You're too young to be here that many. I used to joke, and I'd say, when I was a baby, I was kidnapped by beavers.
It just, it was the most. I mean, I've run into some people, and it's like, he says,
Yeah, I
Well-
see them. I go to Florida, and I see people that
we just grew up together.
retired
It's
from
like,
there.
that's
I
how it
know
was. We
this
grew
one
up together.
Nice
Never
lady
saw-
that worked in maintenance with us. She was a
Yeah,
sweetheart.
we're all the
day
same
she
age.
retired, she was cleaning out her desk. She had a heart attack that day.
Oh,
She recovered.
Oh.
She lives in Florida, and I visited her, and she's a really wonderful lady. But
Never be like that again.
you go to Florida, and you can't swing a dead cat without hitting somebody that worked at Entenmann's.
We all came in at
Bad
the right
analogy,
time.
but
He came in earlier than me, and I came in. I consider, I came in there, 80. So and you know what? All our, in my case, retirement, and it's all them. It's all them because we were riding the crest of the wave. We were just riding it, and it was mostly because when you were showing all the companies,
Oh, yeah.
if you noticed, there was a big time change from I think Philip Morris to CFC,
see, the best
Best Foods.
place
Best-
time frame for you to have retired would have been Kraft. Of all the companies that
Well,
bought,
yeah, but
Kraft had the best pension plan for
I still
management.
I get stuff from them. I
because
get stuff from them. Yeah,
Kraft would allow you to retire, receive your full pension, and keep working there if you wanted.
well,
No other company would do
You had to
that.
be 55. Oh, I see what they did. A lot of like Sue. Sue left before she was 55, but what they did was they gave her like she was 55.
Well, she
You're
had-
allowed
yeah.
to do that,
Right.
and boom,
all right.
she's gone. She's out. You know.
But I know Kraft would allow you to collect the pension and keep working. None of the other corporations that bought it would allow that.
Yeah, they pushed you up to 55, but I was too young
My
for that.
foreman.
I was too young. You had to be close to
qualified
55.
for that, but
Yeah, I was
he
too.
could have taken advantage of it.
Yeah,
But,
I was too young.
Best Foods and none of the others would. They wouldn't allow that.
And you were working there when it was first sold, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, it was-
Were the people were
77.
the people working there happy when it was sold,
Well,
or
to tell you the truth,
I don't
we-
think they paid too much attention.
They
Oh,
told
okay.
us, like I said, they had a meeting and they told us, that Warner Lambert said, they were going to invest heavily into the place, and they promised they were going to make us the biggest bakery in the world. And the first thing they did was sell us. Within a couple
Well, they
of
came in
years.
78, and it says
Yeah,
it was 82.
Yeah, they
So it was
were
4 years,
yeah,
3,
so
4
they
years.
never really, they never really made a big investment.
But
in the place.
then went Philip Morris. Philip Morris,
Yeah.
Philip Morris was
But we'd already
gigantic.
pretty much been
And then General,
pretty well expanded.
and then they took over then we were under General Foods, and then Philip Morris and General
Kraft.
Foods got together. They're mega giants. And then Kraft was a competitor. Then Kraft got in, and now that you got three of the biggest biggies, and we're in there. We're amongst that. And I mean, I remember I had to go to the General Foods headquarters, which was upstate, and we used to call it the Taj Mahal because it looked just like the Taj Mahal with a dome on it, and you could see it from the thruway going up.
oh,
And man, What a place. Oh, man, I had to go there for something. And remember Dieter Krebs? Remember?
Yeah, I know
Yeah,
the name.
You remember him? He got transferred up there, and I would meet him up there. I mean, they had a cafeteria that you would die for. I mean, our cafeteria was good, but I mean, they were making food in this cafeteria. Food to order. What a place. But that's when, we did really well there. And then when 401ks came, 401ks came like around in the early, like 82-ish, around there. There was no 401ks before then, and we got on the bandwagon, and that's when you started to really save for your retirement and your future.
Oh, right.
Because I didn't get a pension. I don't think I did. Oh, yeah, I did get a pension, right. He had one through the union.
Yeah.
He was in Local 3, right?
Well, it started with Local 50, and then they.
Okay, but he had a
Over
pension
to
through the
Local 3,
union.
yeah.
What was it called? What was that called?
Well, they had
When
Golden 80.
That's it, Golden 80s, which was
I could've
his
gotten out of
age
there at
and his
49.
service time had to equal 80.
Oh, okay.
Then you could walk away and collect your full pension.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So in my
So for people that wanted to start a second career, that was a nice
yeah,
jump start. You know?
That sounds great.
but yeah. I mean, that's what I attribute my. And I retired. I retired, and that's what I attributed that to, all that money. I mean, and the stocks were going like through the roof, and we're coming out with so much
Yeah,
good
it would
stuff.
have been a great time to buy stock.
But I think it all went downhill. Started to go downhill when they tried to do the fat-free.
Oh,
The
fat-free?
Thunder, yeah, it was a nice idea.
Operation Thunder, they called
That was
it.
in 1990, right?
No, it was earlier than that.
Oh.
It was earlier than that.
The
I mean,
stuff,
it was yellow boxes.
the color was wrong. I said nobody's going to buy
The
this.
taste
That-
was
the
wrong.
color that the
It
box
was
came in,
bland because nobody had come out with artificial
and they got some
sweeteners yet.
doctor to tell them that that this was going to be if you have to have cake, this will at least
Ugh.
But then when they discovered that we had our own incinerator where we used to burn our own garbage,
Oh, yeah?
and when the fat-free cake wouldn't burn,
Yeah, because that's right. You
the
would throw cake in
incinerator,
there.
then they knew they had problems.
The cake wouldn't burn.
Right, if it won't burn, then maybe
It didn't
you shouldn't
burn?
be
The
eating.
cake
No,
itself
that's-
didn't
that-
burn?
That was the death knell.
He's right about the fat-free. The
There's too
fat-free,
many- yeah.
it just was like paper, blah. And
Yeah,
there
it
was
didn't
not.
have the taste, and no matter what they tried to advertise it as, the proof is.
And
in
what
the
you're
pudding.
doing is you're doing. It's like all companies run into this problem where you got regular all butter pound loaf and fat-free all butter pound loaf.
Yeah.
And if you're buying the fat-free, you're not buying the regular one, which is really your bread and butter that you've been
right.
selling for
Yeah,
like
the butter
50.
is what you want. Come on.
Right, and this, right, and they tried, and
Wasn't that the
not
time that-
everything was fat-free, but
Wasn't that the time that fat-free was really big? Really popular?
Yeah, they,
Well, that's when it started.
cake
You got
was
to remember,
getting a
cake.
bad name at that time.
They had to
heart
do it
disease and
because
everything.
everybody else was doing it. Plus our regular line of product. It was, the doctor's not going to prescribe you to let you eat that,
Right.
and we did. I mean, it was incredible. But so you came out with fat-free, and I don't know. We did a few years, and then it kind
But,
of.
I noticed a lot of people back there were saying that they noticed the quality was, because I know that when I started, and I went in the Air Force in '66, and when I came back in 1970, some of the products, butter was in the recipe, the butter was gone, and now we're using Fleischmann's margarine. So by 1970, there were other products that were using Fleischmann's margarine
Oh.
before I left. When I came back from the service, Fleischmann's had been replaced by Buckeye margarine, a cheaper margarine.
Did you think it tasted different?
Of course,
Oh.
you had to know the difference. When they're using butter as opposed to margarine, they weren't, it was cheaper.
Right.
It was cost efficient or whatever. But to say, that the quality changed 10 years later, no, it started already.
Oh.
Once
I mean, yeah,
take away butter and put margarine in its place, you've already.
I mean, chocolate donuts. Now the box holds. It did even when I was there. Holds 8. But remember when it held 6, and they were big donuts.
Oh, wow.
Big donuts. 2, 4, 6. Big mother donuts. Right? Now they're smaller, and it's a longer box, I guess, to make you think you're getting more, which you probably aren't. You know, the crumb cakes used to be, the foils were so high, but now they're not high. You know, the prices, you got to catch it on sale, or else it's like $6 and change. But
I think we're boring these people. Huh?
no, you kidding? They're taking advantage of us. We got we know really what's going on.
She's delighted.
They're into it.
With lawyers.
They're into it. Because where are they going to get this good information?
Oh, yeah, this is strip mining right here.
And you know what? I don't think I've been able to talk about it in so many years because I haven't seen. You did. You said recently.
No, I keep in touch.
The last time I saw people was in 2010. Remember the freebies we used to get, the safety?
Yeah.
I still actually have some of that crap around my house.
I do too. Yeah, I keep it as,
No, I use it. I mean, knee pads for the garden I have, and I have some, you know what I have? I have some
the trucks that they gave us, the toy trucks.
Yeah, and I also have some cookie jars.
Yep.
But I heard that nothing's worth anything. So.
Can you tell us again also about what you remember about the Entenmann family, like Robert and Charles, if you wanted to?
Well, I'll tell you what. When they used to be in my presence, it's kind of. I mean, I thought of them
Scary.
as just. That's right.
Oh.
No, and I thought of them as if I'm standing next to the president.
Yeah, it's.
Really. I mean, that's
Right.
how much. Right, and it was kind of like a little bit of an honor.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Now, Charles, like I said before, I never saw him.
Because he was always in maintenance. He was involved with.
No,
the
but he wasn't
maintenance
even there
and
when I was there.
Yeah,
he was
he was.
gone. He blew out of there. I think when they went to
sorry,
Warner
you're
Lambert.
Right. Yeah, he didn't.
He took off,
right. But
and he never
in the
came.
beginning, when I first started, he would be there, but mostly his focus was the maintenance.
Never saw him.
Oh, okay.
And William was production, the cake, and
Right.
Robert was the sales.
Robert and William.
Drivers.
William, I saw all the time because he'd be walking through the bakery. And then when we had the things, I forget what we used to call scoring. That's
Yeah,
what.
the
Remember the
scoring
thing I
board.
told you about the cakes,
Yeah.
and we had to check them out and taste them.
Yes.
They call it scoring. So
William was the expert.
That's
in
what
that.
it is, scoring. So we had to be at
That's
scoring
scoring.
at 4:00. So, and then they'd have all these cakes, and we'd eat them and 8, and another guy would eat it, and he goes 7, and whatever, And if it meant cut it, the grain was important. I mean, the grain had to
What
be
color is it?
uniform.
How does the color look?
Yeah,
they-
all that
they
stuff.
scored on
Because they took arbitrary things off of the. But then William would always be there because that's his thing. That was his thing. The production. And,
Oh, yeah.
and yeah, that was. And like you said, Robert, he sometimes came to scoring, but base scoring,
And Charles must have left then in about the 1970s.
Well, he
Oh,
wasn't.
yeah.
I got there in '80. He was not there. I never saw
See
him.
Did you see him after that?
No, but I know someone.
I don't even know if
worked-
I wonder if he's still alive.
Yes, he's the
He
last
is?
one. He's still.
He is alive. Wow.
Still alive. And,
Wow.
from
Then
what I understand, he after that he would look for failing companies and he would buy them and
Oh, yeah?
turn them around
Mm.
and make them successful
well, when they sold it, I'm sure he got it.
because he
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 got
didn't
his
want
piece,
to retire and
Yeah. Yep. But then William passed, and then
well they were
Robert
not
passed a
children
couple years
either
ago.
when they sold the bakery. They were already in their 50s and 40s, late 40s, somewhere around there.
Yeah, because I was middle 20s when I got there, mid 20s. So I'd say they had 20 years or so on me, maybe more. I don't know.
Did you ever see the William Sr.?
No,
No. Oh.
but the mother was there.
Yeah.
You did.
Yeah, she used to make
Because she used to work in a
turkey
cash room.
sandwiches for lunch. when I-
She used to work
when
in
I
a
came back
cash
from
room.
the Air Force,
Martha.
yeah.
She was
We'd go
gone.
to her office. Her great nephew was my helper on the mixer,
Yeah.
so she make him lunch, and then I go along and she make me lunch too.
Yeah, that's yeah.
She had her own
That's
kitchen
great.
in her office.
Oh, wow.
Because she owned the place. She could do whatever she wanted.
That's a perk.
Oh, one of the best
Very nice.
perks was that, especially when we got with General Foods because General Foods owned Maxwell House. So we had coffee stations all over the place.
Really?
Oh, yeah, right.
And in the coffee stations,
That was the best
they'd
coffee.
send somebody down to the plant and just with a rolling cart and just bring a menagerie of stuff. And it was one by O'Connor's office. And I had an office that was close to that, and you just go over, make coffee, nibble, and...
See, at Freihoffer's, I went to visit Freihoffer's after my
Upstate?
brother got a job there. Yeah, and I went to visit a couple of their plants up there.
Did you?
He took me around, and what they did over there, they had those coffee stations all over the plant for the workers.
Yeah, see.
But
Well,
they didn't abuse they...
But we brought cake in the lunchroom for you guys.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the guys that are mixing the dough for the bread.
Yeah.
They've got a coffee pot.
Oh, right there?
Yeah, so they
Well-
can have coffee while they're working. But see, while the mixer is turning and mixing the dough,
That was
you know
then.
what the mixer is doing? He's cleaning the machine and making sure everything. Not like what we did at
That
Entenmann.
was
It
then.
different, you
Yeah,
know?
that was then. Yeah. And then eventually they fell under the same corporate banner
Right. We
as
all
us.
were under
We
the
were
same umbrella.
I think we were trying to knock them out.
Well, they
put
made
them out of
bread.
business.
No, they were bread.
But that's true.
basically, and they made cookies.
But
And,
we just were trying to,
I remember there
Yeah.
was a time when they considered making bread.
and they were really in New York,
They
not
were in Albany.
Albany, but they weren't as,
They had 2 plants in Albany, and then.
They're sort of the competition, right?
Well, no. What
They weren't
happened
down
was
here,
when they
but-
sold and became a corporation,
yeah,
and they were all part of this under the umbrella.
they got sucked in
then
there.
then the crumb cake would come down the line and go into an Entenmann's box, and at a certain point they would stop the line, and then they take the Entenmann's boxes away, and now out comes
Yeah.
the Freihoffer's box.
Oh.
And the
Because
same
we
cake is
were,
going,
we were both under the same
and up
corporate
there,
thing,
they
so
had
they
a
helped
certain
us. We
chocolate
helped
chip
them.
cookie that they made better than us. So
Oh,
their
okay.
chocolate chip cookies, I think it was the crispy one. We made the gooey one.
Right.
And they made the crispy, and they would do the same. The
good.
cookies would come down, go into a Freihoffer's box, and at a certain point they would stop, and then they.
Yeah.
Well,
Wow.
General Motors had the same thing with the Cadillac,
Yeah.
having the Buick engine
Hmm.
or the Chevy engine, and then when the public found out about it, people discovered, well, you're right, it's General Motors. They
We
were all-
used to call that term co-packing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we used to call co-packing. So it's like,
And it
we-
seemed like it was a, like
We might not-
bait and switch or something,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, a
But
little bit.
apparently it was legal.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I mean, a real sharp person could look at the box and remember the code used to get printed on the bottom, right? That might not how they do it over there, and they might go, it looks different or whatever.
I still remember, Ebbinger's, when they folded, that was a
Yeah.
Brooklyn
In the city,
outfit.
yeah.
They had small bake shops all over. But when they went bankrupt, Entenmann's bought all their boxes,
Yeah.
all their signs. They bought all their recipes because they were famous for their buttercream frosting.
Yeah.
On Sundays in Brooklyn, the bakeries, the people would line up. The irony was we came out with a product,
did.
4 or 5 different frosted layer cakes, and they were supposed to be, they had Ebbinger's recipes, and the cake we made was, god awful. The frosting was gum. And I said, what? You have the recipes, you bought them, you're sitting on them, why aren't you making, who knows?
Yeah.
They-
Yeah.
Then if you don't do something after 7 years, when you buy somebody's
right.
label, then it's back up on them. And somebody else tried to they reopened an Ebbinger's in there for it didn't last. It went right down the
Really?
tubes.
Thank you so much for joining us and telling us these stories. It's
maybe
been great.
not.
Thanks for your time.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah, now you guys,
Thank you.
you guys are basically in with the company, as much as we did.
Me and Peter would like to extend our deepest thanks to Bruce and Horace for sharing their stories. We hope you enjoyed listening along as much as we did. And as always, a special thanks to Brentwood Historical Society for their hand in making this podcast possible. And finally, thank you to Kevin MacLeod for providing the theme music you heard today. You can enjoy all of his music at incomtech.com. Thanks for listening. See you next time.